welcome to my YouTube channel and blog. I'm Jenny Hall. This video is going to be number 2 in the series of multi-step stamping. Today is going to be a Christmas card, and we are going to be multi-step stamping, I know that's a mouthful, some pine cones to go onto a Christmas card. I'm using Christmas Pines stamp set, and then I will cut them out with the Pretty Pines Thinlits dies. So let's get started with our stamping process. I have numbered all of the stamps that come in the stamp set in the order that they're going to be used, so that will help us to follow along. So if you look on the right hand side of the screen, you'll see what order we will stamp the pine cones. As you learned in the first video, I like to start with the whole image. There's usually in the multi-stamp, there's usually an image of like a flat surface that has the entire pine cone or balloon or whatever the image is, and that's going to be the base layer or layer number 1. I use a second generation or a stamp off technique to make it a lighter shade. Number 2 stamp is going to be a full generation, and it goes directly over that first stamped image. And then number 3 is the same way. So as you see, I just stamped off with the first stamp. Here comes stamp number 2. I did stamp off just to kind of demonstrate what it's going to look like. And then here is stamp number 3. And that's going to be full strength ink on step number 3, because the last stamp in the process generally lends the most depth. It's going to be something that is offset a little bit from the first image, and it will give you that look of having something a little bit more recessed and a little more deep versus something that pops up at your eye. So I went ahead and cut these items out on the Big Shot die cutting machine to save time. I've got a couple of pine boughs that are from Pretty Pines Thinlits dies, and I've used the framelit that goes with this to cut the pine cones. This is a great set of thinlits and stamps because it's very versatile. I can see using these pine cones on many different cards in many different ways. My card base is made from it's very vanilla, and it's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And then I next have a layer that is 1/8 of an inch smaller of Tip Top Taupe. The ink color that we stamped in was also Tip Top Taupe, so that everything is going to coordinate. I have a piece of very vanilla that is cut 1/4 of an inch smaller than the taupe. And then I have a piece of designer series paper that has been cut out with the layering oval framelits. This is a piece that is left over from a previous project, so I did not cut it specifically for this project today, which is why I am not showing using the die cut machine to cut out the oval process. It's just an oval, and you can use any size that you like. The designer series paper is from this Christmas, and I like how it has the nice garden green colors, and it coordinates nicely with the taupe, and then the cherry cobbler red also goes really nicely. So I'm layering all of these items together, and then I will apply the die cuts on top. So it's interesting to see what people do with after they have completed the multi-step stamping process. What do you do with your items? Usually, whatever you're multi-stamping is going to be a die cut, although there are many instances when it's not, such as Stampin' Up has the hummingbird and the starfish and the what's the other thing in there? I think it's a rose. And those items are not accompanied by framelits, and they're meant to be applied directly down to the card face. And they're larger items, which sometimes it's a lot easier to line things up with larger items. This particular stamp set does not have a directional arrow on which way to turn the pine cone. I guess it just, because the stamp is the pine cone is directional in itself. I think that's why the designer must have omitted the little arrow of which way to point it. But you will notice that with many stamp sets, there is an extra piece of photopolymer whenever it helps you to line everything up in the right direction. So that is something to definitely be on the lookout for when you are doing multi-step stamping on your card making projects. I'm using snail adhesive to kind of stack things up, and I used a Stampin' Dimensional, which is a foam adhesive, to raise up a little bit of the pine cones. I'm using some more snail on this bow, and I did tie the bow in advance to save some time for this project. After I have everything adhered, I'm using some Stampin' Up! Silver glitter glue on the underside of the pine cone and then on the background pine cone, just to give a little bit of interest. A lot of times in stores, I will see pine cones and they've been dipped in glitter, and I always thought that was something that was, it's so unnatural, but it's also has a touch of nostalgia it'll always be appealing to me, and reminds me of my childhood. There's many different ways that you can decorate a pine cone, and it's always a very kid-friendly project. These are enamel shapes that I'm applying to the card. They are metallic, and I chose to go with silver. I think gold would also look really nicely with the color scheme here, but again, that's completely going to be your choice. So this card is completed, and this is video number 2. Next week, I will feature a flower, and it'll be number 3 in the series. Thank you for joining me in this card making tutorial, and I invite you to go over to my blog at jennystampsup.com, where I feature a daily card making project. While there, you can subscribe and you'll get an email in your inbox every morning of a brand new card idea. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next card making video.